What up everybody, it's your girl Angel from Angel Loves Books, and welcome to another book review. Today I'm going to be talking about Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Paige. As always, this is going to be a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't read the book already, feel free to stay tuned, and hopefully by the end of this video I can convince you to buy this book, or to read it at least, somehow, some way, whichever way you choose. So Dorothy Must Die follows the story of Amy Gum, who hasn't exactly had the greatest life. Her father abandoned her when she was a child, and ever since it's been just her and her mother. Until a few years ago, her mother was in a car accident and started pill popping. Ever since then, it's just been Amy. However, everything kind of changes for Amy when, in true Oz fashion, her entire trailer is picked up and carried away by a tornado to the magical land of Oz. But not everything is the fairy tale it's supposed to be. When Amy wakes up, she finds herself and her trailer hanging precariously off the edge of a deep pit. And she eventually learns that Dorothy didn't stay in Kansas after she left Oz. In fact, Dorothy returned and now holds all of Oz under her tyrannical thumb, completely sucking the magic out of Oz and basically killing it. Dorothy Must Die is the first in a trilogy of novels by Danielle Paige that follow Amy as she tries to kill Dorothy. Alrighty, so jumping right on in, the beginning of this novel I thought was perfectly paced. We get just enough insight into Amy's past and present to understand why she does what she does later on in the book without dragging or being too detailed heavy. And at the same time, we also get our first glimpse of Oz, and right from the beginning you know something is wrong. All of the color has been drained from Oz, and this is because Dorothy has set up magic mines, which is literally taking all of the magic from Oz, and it's killing this world. This was a fantastic series, and it pulls you right into the novel, and I had such a hard time putting this book down. I literally read over half the book in one sitting. It was that good of a novel. And this beginning just does an amazing job pulling you right on in. Now, at this point in my review, I would usually focus more on the climax. However, the climax is pretty much what you would expect it to be for a novel like this. It's very high action, fast-paced. So instead, I really wanted to focus on the middle of this book, which, from reading the reviews on Goodreads and watching reviews here on YouTube, most people had an issue with. For the most part, I actually didn't have an issue with the middle. Really, in my opinion, it kept me just as entertained as the rest of the book did. And actually, I particularly liked the middle because you really get to see Amy develop as a character. The middle of this book is where the majority of character development takes place, and I think Danielle wrote it amazingly. You get to see, Amy dealing with her trust issues, She has gotten thrown into this magical land that is on the brink of war, and she can trust no one. There is not a single soul in this world that she can trust, and that's bound to, take a toll on you, and you really get to see her kind of develop and grow as a character in the middle. And I think that's why most people find the middle boring, because it really does just focus on developing Amy as a character, as well as developing some of the other characters. And so not a lot happens action-wise, and I think that's why most people have an issue with this. Especially since we had such a high action-packed beginning, to put the character development in the middle like that, I can understand why most people felt it dragged and it wasn't very interesting, but I personally really enjoyed getting to see all of the different characters develop. Alrighty, so on to the ending. So, I can't talk too much about the ending because there are so many plot twists and different turns in this book that it would be impossible for me to talk about the ending without giving something away. But Danielle Paige definitely, with this ending, just, oh, this was an amazing ending. In fact, I think the only problem I had with this ending was something I had talked about in a previous video. This book ended on a cliffhanger. I personally feel that books should not end on cliffhangers. I understand that you're trying to tie it into the next book, but the book should be able to stand on its own without you needing to immediately read the next book in the series. That was my only issue with it. So, I mean, it was an amazing ending. It kept me on the edge of my seat. I literally spent 2 hours straight just reading the entire last, like, 10 chapters of this novel. It was so amazing. So, I can't really talk a whole lot about characters without giving some of the book away. So, instead, I'm just going to be talking about our two main players. And the first character I'm going to talk about is Amy. I absolutely loved Amy. She was definitely a character that I could personally relate to, and just, you know, I really felt sorry for everything she was going through, and just watching her get stronger throughout the novel, you know, kind of learning the ropes and finding more about who she is as a person. I really enjoyed that. Not only that, but she's smart, she's funny, she's, you know, she's extremely sarcastic, almost to a fault, really. Amy's mouth gets her in trouble in more than one occasion, and I love her. She has to be one of my favorite protagonists so far this year. And the second person I'm going to talk about is, of course, Dorothy. You can't have a review on a book about killing Dorothy without talking about Dorothy. Dorothy was an absolutely fantastic villain. You don't really see a whole lot of her throughout the book, but even when you don't see her, you can still feel her in, like, surrounding Amy. You know, you can't go anywhere without feeling Dorothy's presence. And that, I think, is, you know, that is a villain. To have that kind of power where, you know, even when you're not there, you can still put the fear of God in your subjects. It's amazing. She is self-absorbed, selfish, and absolutely ruthless. She can come up with a number of ways to punish those who disobey her rules. But at the same time, people who are fans of the original Wizard of Oz, you know, they can still see underneath, you know, that innocent Kansas farm girl who just wanted to go home when she was first brought to Oz. You know, that persona is still lying underneath the surface, and so I think she just made an excellent three-dimensional villain. Alright, so the plot. As someone who never enjoyed the Wizard of Oz franchise, either the books or the movies, I found this retelling to be absolutely fascinating. It takes everything that we've ever known about Oz and completely flips it on its head. You know, good is evil and evil is good, and you don't know which is what, and you have absolutely no idea who you can trust in this world. I felt like the story moved at exactly the perfect pace, slowing down and picking up where it needed to. So this is the part that I've been waiting for, the description. I want to start off by saying that this book is not for the weak of heart. There are quite a number of fairly grotesque scenes, and Danielle Paige spares no expense going into detail about what exactly is being done. Some examples are, there is a character who gets melted into a puddle by acid. We have another character who has an eye clawed out because he looked at Dorothy. And probably the most grotesque scene was when one of the characters has their arm ripped off by the lion. Then they are taken in by the scarecrow, beaten to death, had their eyes plucked out, and then had their corpse reanimated. Yeah, this book is definitely on the dark and twisted side. And so I loved all of the juicy details that Danielle gives us in describing these kind of twisted and really gross things, and I absorbed it like a sponge. I loved the images she conjured. Ooh, that kind of makes me sound bad, doesn't it? Oh, overall, I thought this was an absolutely wonderful, fascinating, fantastic story, and which is actually really surprising because this is Danielle's debut novel. There is a novella that goes with this called No Place Like Oz that follows Dorothy right after she returns home from Oz and kind of her regretting her decision, and it tells the story of how she gets back to Oz. And I'm actually currently reading that novella. I may or may not do a review on it. It just depends on how much I feel there is to review on it. I gave this a 5 out of 5 on my Goodreads. I definitely do not regret picking up this book, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who enjoys the Wizard of Oz franchise, or just anyone who really loves dark, twisted stories. I don't know if I would really call this horror. Like, it's kind of like borderlining on horror, but it's not quite there yet. But if you really like dark, twisted stories, this is definitely a book you should read. Alrighty, and so that is it for my Dorothy Must Die review. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. If you've read the book and want to share your thoughts, you can leave them down in the comment section below. Also, you can follow me on Twitter, see what books I'm reading, see what's going on with Camp NaNoWriMo. I'm also going to leave a link to Danielle Paige's Goodreads account, so if you want to learn more about her and more about Dorothy Must Die, you can find them in the description box below. And finally, don't forget to subscribe for new videos every Friday. Bye-bye!